spiked out. I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.
Hello, and welcome once again to another This Week in Startups. It's episode, Tyler, number
68.
68. Jesus, we're heading right towards number 100. I've already picked the 100th guest. I have two choices for 100th guest, either Elon Musk or Pincus. Those two guys are crushing it, so we should have them. I just got back from a great road trip, was up at the Founders Institute.
And you were all over Boulder and the Bay.
So I went in reverse order. Yesterday I was in Boulder for the Tech Stars. David Cohen was on the program. I don't know when, but David Cohen was on the program, and he runs Tech Stars in Boulder. Incredible program, and they had a dozen companies.
You're thinking of Brad Feld. We haven't had Cohen on.
No, I never had David Cohen on?
No.
David Cohen?
Feld was 35.
Brad Feld was on?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Dave runs the program there, Tech Stars, with Brad Feld, had Brad Feld on, and it's amazing. Boulder as a city is so impressive.
Yeah. Well, this time you were there in the summer, which is when it really
beautiful.
shines. We were there kind of in the winter time.
So the day before, on Wednesday night, we had Open Angel Forum.
Yeah.
It was the best Open Angel Forum ever.
Really?
Unbelievable quality of companies. I'm so excited about it. I think I'm going to write an email about it this weekend. Kind of sad to not have you with me on these trips now. This is the second time I had to bring Jason Crute, who's the GM of Open Angel Forum. So I sort of lost my little buddy there. Tyler and I used to go on all these trips now. Yeah. Are you bummed out about it? Be honest.
Boulder in the summertime is nice.
So you are a little bummed.
I lived in Colorado one summer, between like 8th and 9th grade. It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So you are a little bummed that you didn't come to Open Angel Forum New York, and you jealous of
more because of Boulder.
But you're not jealous of Jason Crute that he gets to travel with me now and sits next to me on the flight?
Where haven't we been?
That's true. So you're not.
Been there, done that.
Okay. All right, fine. I miss you.
Lovingly, but
I miss traveling with you. But you're going to come with me to London, right?
Oh, totally.
So London's good.
Yeah.
Have a good time in London. Yeah. I'm also going to go, anyway, Open Angel Forum, incredible success. The day before that, on Tuesday this week, I went to Adeo Ressi's Founders
Institute
Showcase, which is run by the Founders Institute. The companies there were weaker, but I realized why.
They're earlier.
Yeah. They're sort of doing presentations and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, our guest today you're on Open Angel Forum.
We are indeed.
You pitched at the first San Francisco one, I remember.
It's what got everything started.
Marco Zappacosta, I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, Zappacosta.
Zappacosta. That's Italian, right?
It's Italian, yeah.
I grew up with a lot of Italian guys. But you're from the West Coast, right, originally? Or your parents from the East Coast?
So my parents are actually Italian.
Right.
So I'm first generation American.
Really? Like Italian from Italy?
Yeah, married there, born there, raised there.
You're kidding?
Yep.
Wow. Food must be good in your house.
It's quite good, yeah.
Oh, God, Italian food. That's why I'm like 10 pounds overweight, because I grew up in Brooklyn, and there's like 3 food groups, like pizza, zeppoli, and Manigot, or like the 3 food groups. Anyway, Marco Zappacosta is the CEO and founder of Thumbtack. I met you through the Open Angel Forum. You presented at the Open Angel Forum in San Francisco, which would have been in March, maybe?
Yeah, early March.
Early March. And Tyler, the reaction to Thumbtack at that Open Angel Forum was?
They were obviously going to get funding in a short amount of time.
It was, I think, one of the 2 or 3 companies out of the 50 companies who have been at Open Angel Forum that did the best. I mean, you have a great business model. We're going to hear about it during the interview, which happens at the 30-minute mark during the show. But wow, that was very successful. I'm going to get into details about how you got into it, how it went for you, how you raised the fund. And I'm an investor.
Yeah.
I'm an angel in Thumbtack. It's my second to last investment of the year. Reportive was the other one I did, which was also an Open Angel company thing. So we're going to hear about that. And special thanks to the .co domain registry. This is big news. Everybody knows about this. People are going crazy buying .co domains. I have a bunch of them that I've bought. We're going to use Mahalo.co is going to be our corporate blog now. Co stands for company, and it's very hard to get a .com. So companies are lining up, including Twitter bought T.co, Overstock, they bought O.co, Politico bought Politita.co, pretty clever. AngelList bought Angel.co, AppWorld bought App.co, Venture Web Partners bought VWP.co, and Overstock paid $350,000 for that O.co. That's how important it is to them. It's pretty important to have great domain names, and now it's starting all over again with .co. I've personally bought a dozen, and they're supporting the show. So let's thank them. And I hear good news about them. They may continue their sponsorship of the show, which is critical to have independent media like this going. If you love This Week in Startups or the other shows on the thisweekin.com network, it is your Giri, G-I-R-I. Tyler, explain Giri to everybody.
Giri is a Japanese term which relates to samurais and hard workers in general that feel like they have a duty or a higher responsibility or calling to.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you are a fan of the show, it is your duty in a way, in a very deep way, to support the show and to support the show's sponsors. That's what makes independent media possible. That's what's making the whole This Weekend network possible. All these cameras, this entire staff here, 10 people. And boy, do I thank .co for doing that for us. Go create your own opportunity. You can go to get a .co. You can go to any number of registries, or you can use the one I use, GoDaddy. I love GoDaddy. And go get yourself a .co name. Did you get Thumbtack.co yet?
No, we haven't, but we should. We got it.
If anybody out there goes and buys in the room Thumbtack.co and doesn't give it to Marco, I'm going to be very upset at you. So somebody buy it now, and we'll protect it for you. First segment of the show is, of course, Ask Jason. Everybody loves Ask Jason. Let's get started. Boom. Took me 6 minutes to get through the intro. Too long. I'm timing myself now. Okay, on the phone, we have Max on Skype. Max, where are you calling from?
Downtown New York City, Jason.
Downtown New York City, my old stomping ground. Are you in Tribeca or are you on Wall Street?
Wall Street, Water Street.
Water Street.
Exact.
I used to get off at Rector Street when my first job, Barrister Information Systems, 42 Broadway. I get off at Rector Street, and I would go get a breakfast there for $2.99. I could get 2 eggs, home fries, and coffee, and toast. Every morning I get that. So you're calling from Lower Manhattan. You have a question, Max? Let's hear it.
Yes, I do. Can I give you a little bit of my background first? I think that's going to be relevant to the question.
Very briefly, like 30 seconds.
All right, cool. So my background is Eastern European. I came here pretty early. I was 12 years old. I went to MIT, and I've been a serial entrepreneur for about 10 years. Exited 3 of my last 6 companies, and the companies that I run are primarily enterprise focused. I've never taken funding, really, because I've been able to kind of do these doubles and singles in terms of exiting the company. So the current venture that we run is enterprise, has to do with enterprise cloud computing. But my last company that I started noticing that, and here I'm getting to my question now.
Okay.
I started noticing that the engineers and the technology folks that I attract, partly to my background, let's say, are all Eastern Europeans, all very talented guys. We had offshore operations. We would bring folks over as well.
Sure.
And, they kind of, they work 60, 80 hours a week with me. And we kind of allow this overtime in a company, much like Google. They can kind of tinker around with stuff on their own. If they put in 60 hours of freedom,
sure,
for the 20 hours. And, we've noticed that they're coming up with a lot of great technology solutions, kind of guided by our team.
Right.
In terms of commercialization, especially, again, focused on enterprise cloud vertical solutions.
Great.
So I've noticed that in my last company, and, we exited that company, 3 years ago. And, same thing started happening in Freedom. So at this point, we develop a lot of intellectual property, which doesn't have to do much with Freedom OSS core. We believe that they're commercialized, technologies that can be standalone companies on their own. So sort of like a Y Combinator.
Got it. Okay, so we get to the question.
So the question is, what is the best way you think to kind of start spinning these companies off when these engineers are really not capable to stand on their own as CEOs, right? So they have the technology knowledge, not necessarily the marketing and
right. Okay.
The
so
sales knowledge.
This is a great question. I get this question a lot, and I'm going to summarize your question by saying, I have a lot of ideas that come out of my companies, that come out of my head, that come out of my employees' heads. I would like to take advantage of every idea I have, or at least the top ones, in order to monetize them, because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a killer, and I would like to make a lot of money. That's basically your question, correct?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I feel your pain. a lot of people have a lot of ideas. Ideas are very easy, and execution is very hard, as you've learned since you've done multiple startups. It's very easy to say, I'm going to create an incubator. Almost all incubators have failed. Almost all. In order to do an incubator properly, that has to be the only thing you are doing. And that means you cannot be operating any of the companies in the incubator. The only person who's really ever made an incubator work historically is Bill Gross from Idea Lab, and he made it through Web 1.0 into Web 2.0 into energy. He's a unique individual. I've known him for over a decade. He is insanely hardworking. He's got a lot of ideas, and it's basically Idea Lab is all his ideas. This new breed of incubators, the Y Combinators and Techstars, those are run by people who are coaches, and they coach, but don't operate. You are going to have a very hard time starting a bunch of companies and managing them just because you have technical know-how. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's going to make it very difficult for you to run your original company. And this is from a guy who likes to start a lot of projects. Every year I try to start a company, invest in 10 or so, and this year I started 3 and invested in 15. And I am starting to feel those things. Do as I say, not as I do. There are very few entrepreneurs who are capable of running 2 companies concurrently. Elon Musk runs 2. Steve Jobs ran 2. Kevin Rose ran 2 for a while. I'm not running 2, actually. Well, maybe I'm running 2. Mahalo and Open Angel Forum launch, which is sort of 1. But I have a lot of support, and I bring a lot of business guys in, and I'm 40 years old with a ridiculous amount of resources now because I can start a company and instantly get funding for it, like I did for This Week In. And I have a big network of people, and I can instantly find a CEO like Mark Jeffrey. In fact, I can find 5 CEOs and then pick the one I want. But that's in 2010. In 2005, I couldn't do that. In 2000, I couldn't do that. In 2007, I couldn't do that. Unless you are like Mark Andreessen or Bill Gross or myself now, who has a big network, I don't think it's advisable. I would not have done this 3 years ago myself. And as a matter of fact, even now when I am doing it, I'm stopping because it's overwhelming to have this many balls in the air that you're juggling and you feel like you're spread too thin. So don't wear yourself out by trying to run 4 companies at once or 3 companies at once. Maybe start a second project and be willing to shut it down if it doesn't go well. Marco, what do you think?
It's tough to do one, so I'd be, I don't think I could do more than one right now. But this is my first go, so.
It's just very difficult. Tyler, do you have any insights into this?
I'm just statistically, it's not really that feasible to pull off anything great when you're that kind of balkanized mentally. I mean, the superstar examples that you gave are sort of exceptions.
Yeah.
And they, maybe when you get to that league, you can do stuff like that. But I wouldn't encourage anyone else to sort of.
I was hanging out with Elon Musk this week because we both spoke at that Founders Institute thing, and he said on stage, and you can see the videos up on TechCrunch now of his interview, and he started talking about 2007, 2008, when Tesla wasn't going so well, financial crisis, and he had to put all of his money into the company to the point at which he was so broke he had to borrow money from his friends. I was not that friend. I don't have that kind of money. But I was, and Alon and I are very good friends, and we would go to dinner, and we'd be out at 2 in the morning having a drink at a bar on a weekend, both. And I can't tell you how rough of a go he had of it. I mean, I thought the guy was going to break. He's a tremendous entrepreneur. And I told him, dude, don't worry if one of these 2 things fail, SpaceX or Solar City or Tesla. You're still a hero for having tried. And let me tell you, he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it probably took a couple of years off his life going through that. He would describe it as eating glass. That was his metaphor. And looking into the face of the abyss while eating glass. And it is not a good idea. To do something well, you have to focus. If you are Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, I might make an exception for you. My prescription is for you to stop being delusional and focus on one project at a time.
Great advice. Big fan of the show. You have a great program going.
Do you have a favorite episode? Favorite guest?
That gentleman from 37 Signals on.
David. He was great.
Yeah, he had a good view on running businesses and stuff.
He did. Well, thank you for calling in. You had a great question. It's something that I've actually been thinking about writing in my email because I get a lot of questions about it. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay. So we're at the 15-minute mark. You're listening to This Week in Startups, which is part of the thisweekin.com network. And I am here with Marco Zappacosta.
Excellent.
Like Bob Costas.
Yeah.
Costa. What is it? Does Zappacosta mean something? Is it?
Well,
it seems like one of those names that would mean something.
Yeah, so it kind of actually means hoer, like,
Yeah.
of the coast.
Really?
Yeah.
So were you like farmers on the coast of Italy?
Maybe at some point, but it's just, there's a lot of us around there.
So you're a worker. You're a hard worker,
yeah.
backbreaking work. Kalakanis, kalakanis is Greek, and it means to do well, to have done well. And so sometimes, like one time I was buying something in a store, and the woman started laughing at my mom or whatever, and she goes, "Your name, Kalakanis, you know what it means?" And my mom says, "Yes, we know what it means." She goes, "It means good for you. It means you're good for your work." And then, like every time I'm with a Greek person, they go, "You don't know what your name means?" Well, that was a pretty good question, and we're staying on target here. You can follow the show at TWI Startups. Is that our Twitter handle? Yeah. TWI Startups, I believe. And use the hashtag #PoundTwist. And if you would like to be on Ask Jason, you just simply email askjason@thisweekin.com. Again, you're listening to the thisweekin.com network. Okay, next up on the show is, we have a Shark Tank this week or no? No Shark Tank. Okay, so we'll go directly to the interview. We have with us today Marco Zappacosta. He is the CEO and founder of Thumbtack, a company I just invested in. Tell the audience, what is Thumbtack?
So we want to be the place where you go online to find all the services that you need in your day-to-day life. If you need a cleaner for your home, a babysitter for your child, you want to pick up dancing lessons or some other skill, we want to be a destination for all consumer services. Basically an Amazon or an eBay for services.
So local space, services, wouldn't I just go on Craigslist to find a plumber? Or Angie's List? How are you different than those two services?
So for Craigslist, the big one is safety. You're talking about somebody who might come into your home, take care of your child. These are probably the things you care about most in the world. So Craigslist doesn't really give you the peace of mind that you need to source these things online. That's why everyone on Thumbtack has been vetted by a human. We have a team of people that does that. We run them through the Department of Justice's sex offender registry, and we also have tools for them to verify their name, address, social security number, and criminal status. All the things that you need as a consumer to say, okay, this person is who they say they are, and I'm comfortable hiring them.
Okay, so on Craigslist, I find a babysitter or something like that. I have to go interview them and figure out, is this person a serial killer, or are they going to do some demonic baby, ritual with my kid? On Thumbtack, I'm looking at the site right here, and here's in Phoenix, Arizona, nanny, babysitter, housekeeper, personal assistant.
So if you scroll down a little bit,
yep,
you will see that below her descriptions, she's been verified with a couple of attributes. Some people have more, some people have less. There are...
so your email has been verified and the Facebook's been verified?
Yep.
And does that mean the Facebook, if I click this, will link to her Facebook?
It will not.
Okay, but it will tell me that this person does have a Facebook page.
Exactly.
So that's a pretty good start, but that doesn't seem totally great. What's the next level?
The next level is really sort of building out that list. So if someone then had their social security number verified, we actually have a way to send them a letter that requires the postman to verify their name and address upon receipt. And so we've now verified your identity with a government worker in person. So you can say, okay, John Doe is in fact John Doe at this address.
Certified mail.
Exactly what we use.
So you said I'm sorry if I just... I guess that, but
yeah.
That's not the secret sauce, really.
No, that's just one tool we use to help verify
So
people.
you know that they've signed some...
Yep. A government worker has certified that the name and address that we have in our database is what is in fact true.
So if I was a Craigslist person who was going to steal from you your laptop or something like that, because I say I'm a laptop repairman, and then I go to your house and I put a gun in your face and take your laptop, which actually happened in New York, and I'll tell that story later, you would at least know they didn't take, those guys don't take the time to go get certified mail and sign it. They don't want their signature on anything.
That's exactly right.
So now you've got the email, you got the Facebook, you know their address, they've signed something, and if they were to do crime, you actually could find the postman who had the signature, and they'd be able to identify them.
Absolutely.
They would have a visual, possibly, I don't know if the postman could represent it, but they would have to at least have an idea.
Some people even give us their social security number
Wow.
and pay to have a background check run on them. So for like a babysitter, you probably want to go even further and actually sort of make sure that they have no criminal past.
So you put the onus on the person who is
providing
the service to do a background check, how much do they pay?
They pay anywhere from $3, which is just Social Security, all the way to $49, which is a full electronic and in-person background check.
Wow.
Yep.
And so you use some other party to do
Yeah,
that, I take?
Axiom does all the sort of...
Right. And what does that tell you? If you do an Axiom, now I know your Social Security number, you can verify that it's that person's security number, or can they steal somebody's Social Security number and just say, here's the Social Security number I made up?
I mean, they would have to have a name, an address, and Social Security number that match. Obviously, that is something that can be had, but you know, why do it on Thumbtack? You know, there's
It'd be a lot of work.
We just want to raise the bar high enough,
Right.
where people who want to do these sort of scams go elsewhere, and Craigslist is really where they are.
Got it. And here I see DOJ Smart Search Verified. What is that?
That is the Department of Justice's sex offender registry.
Really?
So that means that this person
I'm reading it right here. The
doesn't
yeah.
appear in the sex offender registry.
So you've searched for their name there.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you guys do.
Yeah, unfortunately, the government actually doesn't even give us an API. So we have to
Manually do it.
Yeah, so we have some of our offshore team members do that.
And so how do people like the service? How long has it been out?
So we launched in early December. That's when we first got covered by TechCrunch and VentureBeat and sort of launched live. We now have over 50,000 small businesses that have registered on Thumbtack. And I think it's something that really separates us from most local plays. You know, we don't buy data and put it up unclaimed. We don't scrape content and put it up unclaimed. Every single one of our posts has been added by that individual. And this is because we really want to create a marketplace, not just a directory. We want to take things further than Angie's List or Yelp, so that you as a consumer know that there's a person behind this, because that's really what you're after.
Right. So you are taking the slow growth. We're not going to scrape the entire web. We're not going to take every local business we can find in the yellow pages we're going to buy. You're not going to have a 10 million page footprint for SEO purposes, but you're going to have a small footprint of more verified people, which means the actual experience is going to be better.
Absolutely, and it's content that doesn't really exist anywhere else. If you go look on Yelp, even you go look on Google, the thing that they're probably the worst at is the individual service provider. They all nail the storefront businesses, but we want to move beyond that, because sort of the people that that we're trying to connect you with don't have a storefront business. You know, they're an SAT tutor, they're a handyman, they're a salsa instructor, and so it's we want to connect people with people.
I see also on the site you can request a service. How does this work?
So basically, that's a concierge service. You can come in and tell us what you need, and then we'll deliver bids to your inbox. You don't have to give out your phone number. You don't have to give out your address. You can solicit feedback or estimates without having to pick up the phone. A lot of consumers complain about having to find all these numbers, call them, keep track of who said what. We provide as a hosted bid management solution for all that.
And how is that going? How do people like to work? Do they like to find a trusted person in the directory, or do they like to request?
So what we've seen is people often find someone that interests them, but then they say, Thumbtack, get me more bids. So they'll say, this looks like a great drum teacher for my kid, but you know what? If you've got more, send them my way. And that lets us give consumers sort of multiple options and various things to look at.
How much does it cost to sign up a vendor in your system? I mean, obviously, if they sign up themselves, that's sort of free. Maybe you've got a little bit of work, but the cost here seems to be, in terms of scaling this, that you've got to get a lot of really good vendors in there, and that's how you have to grow the business.
So far, we haven't had to pay any money.
Right.
We've done it all programmatically. Sort of, these people are always trying to get more business. They're always looking for better things, and so we've been able to reach out to them at scale.
But how do you do that? How do you reach out to them at scale? Just from...
they're posting themselves all over.
So you could find them on Craigslist and reach out to them with an email.
Yeah, so we can say, hey, I saw that you're a drum teacher. We actually have a great platform for people like you. And, it's the way that we track that is that 45% of the people that hit our sign-up page sign up. So we feel like, all right, well, we're providing you with something that you actually want. And now
There's no downside.
None.
For them.
None.
And that is how you'll scale the business. You just go to the other sites, look for the good people, and reach out to them.
That's exactly right.
And is that like an automated process, or you got to do that? You got to do that manually.
It's pretty automated.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do that. I know every time I post a job, I get like 20 recruiters. Yeah. It's pretty annoying.
It depends how recruiters are all about that on Craigslist.
I reply to every single recruiter the same way. We do not use recruiters. Any startup company that's using recruiters is a message to. I have no offense to recruiters, but recruiters are too expensive for a startup company, unless you have like $20 million and you don't have time, and maybe you're like Mark Pincus, and you're in a race, and you've got just oodles and oodles or your Groupon, and it doesn't really matter if you spend an extra $30,000 per candidate, but God, they call me all the time, like, hey, would you like to blow $30,000 hiring a receptionist or this Java programmer? I guess we're atypical because I get a lot of people who want to work here, but God, it's hard. You ever consider using recruiters?
We tried. Hiring has been one of the toughest challenges at building a business.
Yeah.
And so we entertain their offerings, but we actually have found that they bring us just pretty crummy candidates.
So what's your solution for finding candidates?
Luckily, we're just we've had a couple people come to us through friends of friends.
That's always the best.
We found our graphic designer by posting on a graphic design school's job board. Got super lucky with that. And now I think with the money that just came in with the angel round, we do have some more challenges finding some good engineers, which is really what our first order hiring.
It's very hard to find great engineers in the Valley. Do you have like a great CTO? You're not a technical
I'm not
CEO,
a technical person,
so
no.
you're like me.
Yeah, we have great engineering, or only 2 guys right now. They do it all themselves.
So you've built this entire site with 2 people?
2 engineers, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And let's go to the angel round. We'll talk about recruiting anytime, but I want to hear how you guys got the site started, and when did this idea first come up?
Yep. So this idea first came up in the fall of '07.
Okay.
That was my last semester in college, and myself and sort of the 2 other co-founders wanted to start something. We'd worked together at a student advocacy group, which was very startup-y, and we decided that we wanted to do it again, but for profit. And I think what struck us being in college at that time was just all the underutilized skills and time and value that these people had.
Yep.
And that sort of germ, or that seed sort of let us think about the service sector generally, and to think that the internet's so good at bringing people together and intermediating transactions, but it really hasn't been applied to this huge, huge space.
Right.
And so that's sort of what got the wheels turning. I graduated in December, went home for about 6 months, lived at home, and then in August of '08 was joined by my technical co-founder. It was the 2 of us.
Moved in with your parents, so he's living with your parents.
We lived at my brother's house, so same.
That's real entrepreneurship. I mean,
yeah.
you're like, hey, could I spend money on the website, or do I got to spend money on rent? You chose the website.
Yep.
That's real entrepreneurship.
We spend money on a domain name.
Yeah, so now let me ask you that. I mean, I always talk about domain names being important. I consider it, this whole concept, Tyler, everybody talks about social proof. I'm writing an email newsletter on this. I'll probably never finish any of these, but social proof, one of the major pieces of social proof is, can you get a good domain name?
Yeah.
Like a .co domain name is available today on GoDaddy. That's a second little ad for the thing. But you got this incredible domain name, so when you applied to Open Angel for him, I remember, and Tyler, you were reviewing them, so he got past your first wave because you reviewed the first thing. Did you notice already, like Thumbtack, I can't believe he's got this?
Totally.
So you're looking down the list of domain names, and you see that.
Yeah, that stands out for sure.
And you're like, that domain costs at least $10,000. This person must be serious about their business.
Correct.
So how did you go about getting the domain?
So we financed it. So what we did is the guy wanted $36,000 for it. Okay. Day one, it was pretty terrifying. I won't even tell you the number 2 name that we had in mind because it's just that bad.
Oh no, tell us.
I was time strapped, which gets at the general conception.
Yeah.
But I mean, not even close.
So you're okay. So you're sitting there going, "Holy!" Oh, sorry. 28 minutes in, you believe that? Holy cow! 36 G's, 36 dimes.
Yep. Day one with nothing.
With nothing.
Could have built a good piece of your whole
could have built the first site,
product.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you start talking to the guy and you say, I'm willing to finance it?
So what we did is these domain registrars have escrow built into them. So what we did is we paid a third up front and then at 6% financed the rest over the first year. And we said, all right, we're comfortable paying out 12 right now. And if it comes to it, in a year, we'll know that this is good or not. And so it turned out to be good, and we paid it, and we own it.
So you said, hey, I could risk the 12. Risk the 12 G's.
Yep, and walk away and say that sucked, but not be out 36.
This is gambling. I love it. I love it. I didn't know you could finance domains like this. I want to buy something today, right now. That is awesome. So you went to Sado or something like that, or Cedo or something?
We used Moniker.
Moniker. So Moniker provides the financing. Yep. And do they check your background or something like that, or they just don't care?
You basically...
Because they have the asset.
Yep. So they have the asset. That's
so exactly you never get control of the domain?
No. But the seller doesn't either. It's truly an escrow with the domain management company.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I had no idea this existed. That is genius. So you say, okay, I'm going to take a risk. I put the 12 G's down. And then you start building, or you start looking for financing. What happens next?
We start building. You know, we were and still are sort of nobodies, and so what we knew that we had to get done was show that we could build product. And marketplaces are a little bit different. They have to grow. You know, it's not something that can just be turned on and it just explodes. You know, it requires people coming in and using it and liking it and growing it. So the first thing we did, we just started building. And spent the first, so it was 2 of us for the first 6 months. And then I think rather atypically, we were joined by 2 more non-technical people.
Huh.
So we were 3 sort of non-technical overhead and 1 engineer.
Oh, boy.
So, you know.
It's 3 people over the shoulder of the engineer saying, when is my thing done?
So
when is my thing done? Wow, that engineer is a saint.
He's a total saint, absolutely. But I think what it allowed us to do was to think about the marketing side a lot.
Right.
Because no one doubts the value of a marketplace for services.
Of course.
If you can build a big one, it's great. The issue is, how do you build a big one?
Right.
And so
there's a massive chicken and egg in this situation.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah.
And so the 3 of us sort of, you know, not really paying ourselves, just hanging out, got to think about that all the time, all day. And I think that was pretty valuable.
So you're thinking, like, what is the lever that we can do? What can we do in the world that's unique? What does the world need right now? Craigslist exists. Here are the shortcomings. Here are the good things. It's free, but you're going to get robbed. Then you have Angie's List. That's paid. It's behind a subscription wall, but it's not verified, but it is higher level than you know, Craigslist.
Something that we kept coming back to was, once we identified what we wanted to do, was how do we create network independent value? You know,
network independent value.
Because we're a marketplace, and so most of the value ultimately comes from the network, but we don't have one day one. So how do we sign up a service provider without that network?
Right. The chicken. You basically,
that's exactly right.
You're explaining the chicken and the egg with network
independent
value. So value before you have a network is what you're saying.
Yep.
Where'd you get that big fancy name from? Was that like an MBA word or something? You're not an MBA, are you?
No.
God, I hope I didn't invest in an MBA. I mean, that would be a problem. But this is like, I want to stop the program for a second in the story. Tyler, this is exactly...
I think we just lost our sponsorship for the Stanford MBA program.
Exactly. MBAs can be great. But I just want to say about Marco, this is exactly what we look for in an entrepreneur, for Open Angel Forum to invest in, or for TechCrunch 50 Now, the launch conference happening February
23rd
and 24th in San Francisco. You knew that building a product was important. You knew that finding some network independent value was important, and you knew a good domain name was important, and you're willing to sacrifice to grow this business, whether it means living at home or putting 12 G's on your credit card to pay down for this domain and taking massive risks. This is what entrepreneurship's about. So now you're looking at the network independent value. What were the things that came up on that list?
And so what we found was a big one is that a lot of these people were using classified sites or had individual websites, and they were having a tough time sort of creating a nice looking profile, one that was permanent and one that acted as a home online for their marketing activities and actually a lot of their back office activities too.
Sure.
So the way we see it for service providers, we're building their home online. You know, we don't want to just be a digital storefront. We want to be the place where they broadcast themselves to Facebook and Twitter.
You want to be their MySpace page.
Yeah,
essentially.
But even more so, and then behind that store sits our sort of invoicing software or appointment management software, email marketing software. So we want to give them tools that they can leverage day one to sort of get value out of Thumbtack, even if we're not, say, bringing them a ton of new business yet.
Got it. So in addition to, hey, we're going to verify who you are and give you a nice landing page, we're also going to do your invoicing.
Yep.
We're also going to do schedule management, all for free.
Yep. And so what we started with was simple CRM stuff where they could have their clients, where they could send status updates, sort of what Postling does, kind of, to your various profiles. We gave them a way to put up a good-looking HTML ad on classified boards.
Yeah.
You know, things that they knew they wanted to do.
It's like the special services around eBay. Like if I'm going to work with eBay, I should be able to,
Yep. Yeah. And so we want to sort of be an end-to-end solution for them.
And so you build all this stuff up, or you build up some portion of it.
Right.
And then you start looking for funding?
Yeah, and the first thing we did is turn to friends, families.
Sure.
And that was our first round. We came to them with a product. I think we probably had maybe 1,000 users then. But I think what we did have was a viable way to grow it.
Right.
And so...
The path to profitability. Path to growth.
Path to growth, yeah.
Right.
And so that's really what allowed us, when we launched in December, to have 20,000 service providers already. 20,000 profiles that have been created just for Thumbtack.
Huh.
And that's also why when we came to Open Angel Forum, we could say, hey, look, we've actually built some product. It looks, we've got people using it.
You had credibility.
Yeah.
Also known, the buzzword today is social proof, but it's really just credibility. You have some things you can point to say, I am not a schmuck. I have actually done something in the world. Something that separates you from this huge bucket of people who says, I would like to do something epic. And then you're in the other bucket, which is, I'm doing something epic. And that really is a differentiator. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Tyler and I talk about this all the time. If you're not creating, you're waiting, is what the way Kevin Pollak says it. And that is the truth. If you're waiting for somebody to give you angel financing, for somebody to back you, you're going to be waiting a long time, because there's enough people like Marco in the world who are actually doing stuff. So when they come in, it's so easy to just say, like, well, I'm going to waste my time talking to a person with a business plan, or the person who got an incredible domain name, has 20,000 people who've signed up. I mean, it's just, you're taking out so much risk. The branding risk is out. The revenue model is out. And are they capable of building something? All those risks are out of the way. How did you find out about Open Angel Forum?
I don't remember, but probably they're sort of one of your email newsletters. Or
so you were on the email newsletter.
I was on the newsletter.
Yeah.
So probably through that.
So take me through the process of applying for that, and how it worked. Because not for my own ego, but for the audience to understand how it works and how they can be successful at it.
So the first thing that you submit is sort of a web form that has various questions. Then you get an email back from Tyler saying, okay, we liked it, you made it to the final cut. Then we did a web teleconference, which actually was the first time I'd done one of those, so I was a little worried as to whether it actually would come off sort of across that. And then we were lucky enough to get in. I think there were 6 in that group.
Sure. Yep.
And we got 5 minutes to do a demo. We just showed product the whole time, and then did a Q&A, and I think I might have had some slides at the end, but I think it might have been all website.
I think it was pretty much all product.
Yeah.
You showed the product, and you're in a room at a restaurant. Was that 5A5 Steak Lounge was the first one?
Yes.
5A5 Steak Lounge, great place. I highly recommend. Every time I go to San Francisco, I go there to have a little Wagyu and Kobe. Also, in order to keep Tyler involved with it, everybody knows I have to buy him $100 Kobe every couple of months. It's really like having you on my team is like having some pop star or something who wants the green M&Ms taken out from their bowl. It's like I have this rider. There's a rider associated with having Tyler on the team. One of them is that he gets Wagyu and Kobe beef every 3 months. So you go there, you go down to the basement in the private room, and you open your eyes and you're looking at Matt Mullenweg and Kevin Rose and Chris Sacca and all these incredible angels that you've heard before, but you maybe haven't met, correct?
Yep. I think the thing that really set it apart was that the angels were committed to being interested.
Yeah.
We'd pitch.
What do you mean by that?
You see a lot of names on events, and they're there, and they are a name, and they are at the event, but they don't care. Yeah. Or they're busy talking to their friends, and it's not about the startups, and that's fine.
Sure.
It's their time; they can do whatever they want. But with this event, they were there, sort of really looking to scope out some startups.
Right.
And so they paid attention. They asked good questions. They were curious.
Yeah.
And you don't
Were you
always get that.
intimidated when you got in the room and
definitely.
you see those guys?
Definitely.
So how do you calm yourself down? You're thinking, my God, there's 15, 20 people here who could actually fund the company. Are you panicked? What's the dialogue in your head?
I've just got a website. I've got to show it to them, and I hope they like it.
Right.
That's all I have.
So you show it, and you're looking at them in the crowd. What are you seeing? Are you seeing heads nodding? Are you seeing interest?
Well, I see them looking at the website and not at me, which is good.
Ah, that's good.
Because if they're looking at me, then we're in trouble. So, having them have that reaction, I think, was good. And I think the crowd that you had at that first Open Angel Forum was a very consumer web crowd.
Yeah.
So I think we were probably the most consumer web of the startups pitching.
Sure.
And so I was kind of worried about that, how they would take it. And
so basically you're worried, these guys know the consumer web so well. You got Kevin Rose who made Dig, you got Matt Mullenweg who made WordPress, you got Josh Schechter who made Delicious. You got a lot of heavy hitters there. You're thinking, what if I'm not as good as them?
Yep, definitely.
How are they going? And these guys have built serious stuff.
Yep.
And so what's the reaction?
The reaction was very positive. And so that really is what set us going on our entire angel round.
You're kidding.
No, definitely not.
That was the first step.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. And so what happens after the event? What happens post the event? You don't. I know for a fact we don't give you the emails of everybody. So what happens after the event? You have to go hustle and get these people?
Yeah, so right after the event, it was pretty clear that Joshua Schechter was very interested. Scott and Cyan Bannister were very interested. and you were interested.
Yeah.
And so having follow-ups with those as soon as possible and getting them to actually say, okay, we're in, we're committed.
Yeah.
And that was the key next step, because with that, it changed everything. You know, this social proof thing, this credibility,
Sure.
you know, these are all real people. You guys have built companies. Having that in hand makes the rest of the game much easier.
People know, okay, if Cyan Bannister and they did Slide, they did this.
They're
they did
outsourcing their diligence to you. You know, if you've opened up your checkbook, they can say, all right, I trust him. He knows what he's talking about.
So here's two big lessons that I take away from that. It's a very good, accurate description of what went down. And if they're looking at the screen and not me, that's good.
Yeah.
This is critical. I've never heard it phrased that way, but we have to tell people this in the training sessions. Not that we do really training for Open Angel Forum, but we do it for the launch conference, formerly known as TechCrunch 50, happening February 23rd and 24th. This is a great way to say it. If they're looking at the screen and not you, you've succeeded, because you're showing, not telling.
Yep.
So how do you get in touch with those people? You call Josh, you email him, do you ask him outright, hey, will you invest?
Well, they were interested. Now, they came there to find something to be interested in.
Yeah.
And so they were, they wanted to follow up. They wanted to dig in deeper.
So afterwards in the cocktails, they gave you their card or
Absolutely.
their email?
Yeah. I mean, they weren't there to just pretend. To go through the motions.
Okay. So how much do you decide to raise in funding?
So we kind of looked at what we had. We're pretty lean.
Sure.
We're a team of 8. We don't spend very much. And so we thought that 1.2 would buy us the runway that we need to, become venture backable, and to really, more than that, come to that table with some bargaining power. Not to, pray for some money, but to say, look, we've built something interesting. We think it could actually use a bunch of capital effectively.
So you want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
You want to have proof that you can deploy that capital intelligently.
Yep.
How do you come to a valuation? You don't have to say what it is, but generally people who are at the Open Angel Forum, it's going to be $2 to $6 million or something like that. So how do you come to a valuation, and how did people receive that? How do you communicate that to people?
So we came to Open Angel Forum with the number in mind that we sort of said. And I think it was, we talked to some of our previous investors who said they were going to come back in. We looked around at the space, and we just kind of guessed. I mean, valuations is, it's an art more than a science.
Sure.
So I think, you're testing demand more than anything.
Right.
And so it was high enough where people were comfortable with. 1 or 2 people did walk away, maybe because of the price. But
which is actually
it's good. That means we're
sort of what you want. You don't want to have everybody say yes immediately,
Right.
and you don't want everybody to say no.
Right.
You did a good job when some people say no and some people say yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just pulled it out of a hat, to be totally... I mean, we knew that range.
Yeah.
We knew sort of what was...
Were you in the high end of that range or the low end? I don't really remember.
We're at the higher end.
The higher end, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you had a lot of proof. So this is why it's important for people to realize this. The fact that you were willing to buy a $36,000 domain means that you could get the higher range of valuations.
Yeah.
That higher range of valuations easily pays for the 36, doesn't it?
Definitely.
So if you are willing to gamble a little bit with your own money, with your own credit cards, with your own credibility, and you're willing to push out the angel round and build something, those 20,000 people you had in the database, they might equal another $1 million on your valuation. The domain name, the $36,000 spent, that could be $1 million on your valuation. It's that critical, isn't it?
Yep.
So now you get some interest. Some people commit a dollar amount.
Yep.
And how do you get them to actually commit? Do they say, I would like to put this much in? Or do you say, how much would you like to put in? How does that happen?
It seemed like most of them had a dollar amount in mind.
So they say to you?
They said, like, look, I want to put in 50, 75, 25. They all had, like, I think based on their own sort of investment preferences. And so with that, then we knew what we had left to get. And so we actually turned to first their connections. So they would say, hey, I really dig this.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to my buddy. I want you to talk to, X, Y, and Z.
Angel get an angel.
Angel to angel. And that is another sort of social proof. When you get an intro from someone who say, hey, I cut these guys a check. I think you should check them out. People take that meeting.
Yeah.
People hear you out.
Absolutely.
So we did that. And then sort of the biggest version of that is AngelList. Which,
yes. Awesome.
Yep. Helped us basically close it out. Because coming to them with the proof that we had, the credibility we had from OAF, we then looked pretty good when we got put out on that list, and that helped us fill out the round.
And I think they're at angellist.com, but it's run by a guy named Navi or Navi.
So it's two guys, Naval
Naval
and Nivi.
and Nivi. I always pronounce it. So Naval and Nivi are serial entrepreneurs.
Yep.
They created something called Angel List. Highly recommend it.
Yep.
It's 100% my endorsement. And they basically take deals that are in process.
Yep.
I don't think they take cold deals. It has to have a couple of social proof.
Yeah, it's one
and
of
they'll
the...
syndicate it to people that they think are interested.
Yep. And I think, it's the best way to get a credible intro to sort of a wide swath of the angel investor base.
Right.
And
it seems like a lot of people are using the 1-2 punch of Open Angel Forum and Angel List. So
Yeah.
we've had people at our event who we found on their list. They've had people on their list from our event, and that's why we both got written up in that Wall Street Journal story, is because people are actually using them as a 1-2 punch, and we were actually thinking of building out what they have. I was like, why bother? I mean, they're already sending people around.
Yep.
They do a really great job, so it's good to hear that. And you know who else does a really good job is DNA Mail. DNA Mail, everybody loves DNA Mail. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to outsource all of your IT, as many things that are not core to building a great site like Thumbtack.com. You don't want to be spending your money on IT people, your Exchange hosted server. You want to outsource that. That's what DNA Mail does, just $2.95 a month. These guys have been supporting the show from the beginning. This is the only sponsor, I believe, that has been with us from the beginning. They provide fully hosted, managed Microsoft Exchange and Google Apps email. Much more economical. You pay by the user. There's no other cost. Totally reliable, 99.99999% uptime guarantee. You may have to drop some of those nines off because it's not theoretically possible. It's much better than hosting your own email service. It is your Geary to thank at DNA Mail. It's your Geary to follow at DNA Mail on Twitter. You are listening to This Week in Startups, part of the thisweekin.com network. I am here with Marco Zappacosta. I'm going to get it right every time. But I got a little dyslexia, so I have to really, I have to actually spell people's names, my own little crazy phonetics. Marco is the CEO and co-founder of Thumbtack. It's a San Francisco-based?
Yep.
Where are you?
we're in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. San Francisco-based local services website that helps verify that the people you're hiring actually are not insane murderers. Unlike the other one, Craigslist, which seems to be a home for insane murderers. It's actually, I have a funny story if I can tell it. It sort of is your interview, but I should tell this story because this story is a big part of the reason why when I saw your idea, I fell in love with it, and why I said, and when I met you, I actually totally fell in love with you because you remind me of myself as an entrepreneur, which is probably me flattering myself because I think you're a better entrepreneur than I am, maybe. You are relentless. It's obvious that you're going to win and that whatever the hurdle is in front of you, you will knock it down. That is how you look at it, correct?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If there's some hurdle, you're going to either knock it down or walk around it. And you have an inherent understanding of what it takes to do this. Anyway, and that's what entrepreneurship is about, resiliency and resourcefulness. You found out that you could finance a domain name when other people probably just said, oh, 36, I'm going to give up. I'm going to get, what was the other one you had?
Time Strapped.
I'm going to get 47 minutes in, 45 seconds. I'm going to get timestrapped.is or something. You actually said, screw it, I'm going to put some money on a credit card and do this right. So anyway, I'm at a wedding in New York, and I grew up with a friend. Anyway, I won't say his name. He's a detective. He actually is one of Bloomberg's private security now. But at the time, he's a detective in Manhattan. And we're sitting outside. I said, how's things going? Whatever, the internet. This is back in the day. And I said, yeah, the internet's going really well, whatever. And he says, yeah, this goddamn Craigslist, this guy Craig, I'm going to kill him. And I said, what do you mean, this guy Craig? He's a friend of mine. He goes, you know Craig from Craigslist? This guy is on my S list. And I said, what do you mean? He says, oh, every crime in Midtown has to do with this guy's list. So he really looks at it as like it's an individual's list and that Craig Newmark is involved in this crime. And I'm like, well, it's like a guy who's got a big company now. This is like in the early 2000s. He goes, I can't believe you know him. I got to talk to this guy. I said, why? He goes, well, we have this one crime wave in New York. A guy says, I'm selling my laptop for $1,000, and he lists a laptop that's worth $2,000. And the first person comes to pay in cash, I'll sell it. People come, he's in the hallway, he puts a gun in their face and says, give me the $1,000, and he leaves. Or he goes to places where people are selling a laptop. He knocks on the door, they take the laptop out, he puts a gun in their face, says, thanks for the laptop, go F yourself. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, oh, well, why don't you talk to Craig? So I got Craig's phone number, I text Craig, hey, you got a second? Yeah, good. I put Craig on the phone with him right there, boom, he talks to him, and let's just say this things got resolved. And at Craigslist is actually, will work with the police to work on these things, but I know this is a major problem. I mean, there's people who've been murdered and all kinds of shenanigans. And I do not blame Craigslist. I use Craigslist. Craigslist is an awesome service. But it is true that you are taking a serious risk if you use service providers, and you have to take a lot of common sense. You take a common sense approach to Craigslist, correct?
Yeah, and I think the big thing is Craigslist was built for another era.
Yeah.
You know, it was built for newspapers, and it hasn't. You know, services online can be built upon a much better platform. Yeah. You know, and Craigslist doesn't really serve this sector that well, and that's sort of what we're trying to move beyond with Thumbtack.
So you raised 1.2 million. You got people like the Bannisters in, and you got Josh Schechter, et cetera. There were some other big names in there. Who are the other big names?
Hadi and Ali Partovi
Yeah.
were in. Mark Goins, who was the first investor in Mint.
Oh, yes.
We had the founder and CEO of Ingenio, so Mark Brito and Scott Faber.
Uh-huh.
Oren Hoffman came in.
Yep. What's his background?
He runs Rapleaf.
Yep.
Ariel Polar.
Ariel Polar. What's his background?
He's done all sorts of stuff
Yep.
in the Valley. He's got a ton of contacts and super nice guy. So we were pretty lucky. We got a big list of angels to help us out.
1.2. You could go to a VC firm. I know you talked to some VCs.
Yeah.
Or I think I remember that.
We definitely did. Yeah, you made some intros. We got some other. AngelList actually does have some VCs too. So
VCs who do angel rounds.
Yeah.
So you met some pretty high-profile VCs I put you in touch with. What was that like?
It was good. Again, for someone who doesn't have experience doing this, sort of making that connection, getting known is a huge first step.
Yeah.
I do think that institutional investors are a little timid of the local space. I think Groupon is killing it, obviously.
Sure.
But there haven't been that many successes in sort of monetizing local in a big way. And I think they're still sort of a little dubious. I think you're seeing that change. One of our competitors raised money. We've been able to raise money. I think that's sort of coming around.
Red Beacon, you're talking
Absolutely,
about, who won TechCrunch 50 last year. Now the launch conference, new TechCrunch 50. Red Beacon is a sort of like your request feature.
Yeah, so they have like one part of what we do.
Right.
They have helping consumers get bids in their inbox, which we do exactly the same. What they don't have is the actual listings that you can browse and interact with, nor do they provide any sort of ancillary services to the businesses beyond bringing them some business.
But with $7.5 million, they could.
They're definitely going to go after it.
Yeah. And so you were watching TechCrunch 50, I assume, or you hear about Red Beacon. Do you just get this incredibly horrible feeling in the bottom of your stomach? What is your emotional reaction when you see a Red Beacon launch?
It's not good.
Yeah. Tell me what it is, honestly. What is it? You just pissed off? Or?
So it's bittersweet. It's bitter because you have someone who has the same idea getting notoriety and gaining sort of mind share in the space.
Yep.
But it's sweet because your idea just got validated. They didn't win in spite of the market they were going after. It was a big reason.
Right.
And we're going after the same one. So, any success that they have in terms of the sort of acceptance in the startup community is validating us too.
Right.
Because we have similar aspirations and going after a similar market.
So it's dark chocolate. It's bittersweet.
Yeah. You want it to be you, but the flip side is if you don't have,
It pissed you off, though. I mean,
absolutely.
Gotta piss you off.
Definitely.
I mean, when I saw Jimmy Wales was doing human-powered search, I was like, I'm going to kill that guy.
Yeah.
So you got the 1.2. You're starting to deploy that. Hiring people you need developers, obviously.
Absolutely.
So you're looking for a developer. You're very early on. They're going to get a nice chunk of stock if they join, correct?
Yeah.
The earlier you get in, the more stock you get. That can work out pretty well. If somebody who's a developer listening to the show wants to go there and change the world and be part of an exciting startup that's got incredible investors, if I do say so myself, who do they email? Marco at?
Yeah, Marco at Thumbtack.
And what do you look for in a developer? What do you look for in an ideal team member?
So we're small enough that they have to be independent. We can't hold their hand, so they have to sort of be able to sort of see a project through on their own, have the sensibilities to think through problems, because there's not, we don't have enough resources for them to lean on.
Yeah.
So we need someone who's obviously technically adept, has some experience building stuff, working in teams, but most of all is committed to the vision and wants to build something big.
And so what do you need, 3 guys, 4 guys?
We're looking to hire 3 technical people like now, yesterday.
3 technical people, 1 front end,
1 back end, and then maybe a wild card
in the middle,
depending to see what the bottleneck is.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so you basically got the whole range there. If anybody's looking for a gig, this is a great place to go. And I can tell you it's going to be a layup in terms of rounding and getting an A round. I mean, this is going to be a layup of a company because you have so much social proof, so much execution. I think your A round is going to be very competitive, very competitive. I can't wait, actually. So when are you thinking now? You got the 1.2, you closed 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yeah, sort of beginning of June.
Beginning of June, you close. Now it's July, you see Red Beacon raise a proper A. What do you think? We should go out and do it?
You know, I think it's tough. So the trade-off is, one, sort of keep building, and gain bargaining power when we do go to that table. The flip side is raise money now and go faster. You know, maybe with less efficiency or less, you know, thoughtfulness than we could if we had more time to plan.
Right.
But, you know, we're not really in control of, you know, things outside of us. So that's kind of the trade-off. We don't know sort of what exactly the right answer is. You know, I think we take great comfort in the space being enormous. So, you know,
Red Beacon doesn't have to lose, and Craigslist doesn't have to lose for you to win.
Yeah.
There could be 5 players in the space.
We think there will be a winner, but we're a long way from there being an Amazon for services.
Interesting. And that's how you talk about it, Amazon for services.
I mean, we think there will be one place online where you know you can go to trust and vet and book any consumer service that you need.
Right now, if I'm a VC, I am drooling. I mean, they really should be drooling right now, because that is a vision. An Amazon for local services with trusted people. You guys are going to go slow and make sure every person in that system is trusted, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's too much. It's not a legal risk. It's just a brand risk. You know, one mom has a horrible experience, and then, you know, God forbid, happens to her child or something.
Yeah.
You know, that's
somebody gets robbed. I mean, every day people are getting robbed on Craigslist. But I shouldn't say they're getting robbed on Craigslist. They're getting robbed in the real world by somebody they met on Craigslist.
Yep.
Just like if you hired somebody in the alleyway to move a couch, they might rob you. You know.
Yeah.
Use your brain.
Yep. But we're so small that, you know, things like that matter.
So from what I'm hearing, you could raise now. Probably there's probably people calling, and you have to decide if you want to build and get that valuation up, or if you take the money now and go a little faster, and maybe you can make more mistakes with the money.
Yep. I think that's exactly the questions that we're asking ourselves now.
Good to have choices.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll see. You know, we'll make sure to look at any deal that comes our way.
Right. What do you think, Tyler?
The part I keep getting to is, well, it sounds like one of the hardest parts that you're having is actually getting the engineering talent. And that seems to be a common topic of Bay Area folks these days. Like, there's a kind of a lull in the market there. And to what degree, I mean, the investment community does a really good job of enticing the CEOs to, you know, be based there. But there's only so many engineers at the end of the day.
It's basically getting to outsourcing and stuff like that. I mean, at this point, do you think you just screw it? We'll have our corporate office here, but we're going to put an office somewhere else where it's less competitive to get people?
I don't think so.
We're going to outsource it? No? You want to have them there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe when we're big enough and we have sort of the organizational capacity to pull that off.
Yeah.
But right now, we need people in that room, sort of, you know, hashing things out.
Whiteboarding.
Yeah, it's we don't have sort of, you know, a script to follow yet.
Yeah.
If we did, then sure, that might make sense. But I think it's too early for us.
I have a big secret for you about how I find technical people, but I'm not going to say it on the air because it's way too good to share with the entire community. This is for the people who are in the Calacanis collection of companies.
Right, but the reason that you're wanting to keep it private is because this is such an issue right now.
Of course, it's always the biggest issue when the market is hot. I mean, talent is scarce, and the options now are getting ridiculous. I mean, our industry is reaching, it's not maturation, but it's reaching scale. And so if you have Google out there buying up every good engineer for 150 Gs, I mean, you can't spend 150 Gs on an engineer. You can spend 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 maybe, but you can't get into this arms race with Google and Microsoft, right?
I mean, we basically are looking for investors who are looking to get equity through their labor.
Exactly.
And that's pretty tough, you know?
Yeah.
Because not only do they have to be good, they have to want us.
It's really tough, and this is why the secret methods are not going to be talked about on the program. I'm sorry, I tell everybody, I mean, I'm very open about everything.
That's my point, though.
I cannot be open about this one. I will not give away the secret sauce. That is the reason why Mahalo we're overstaffed in terms of our tech. And we have killers.
Would you agree that to some extent there's a bit of a benefit in being LA in this context?
Definitely. I don't want to be up in the valley. Screw that.
To try and entice engineers to go somewhere where the highest cost of living more or less.
Yeah, and then it's also like it's so one-dimensional. I mean, I'm no digs to San Francisco. I love it. It's a great town. But this is such a big issue that I think actually there will be. This is my prediction. There will be a movement of people out of San Francisco and out of the valley to other locations where they can get talent. more easily. And I think Austin and Boulder booming
Austin,
is a big part of that because and also Vegas with Tony Hsieh in Vegas. I mean, you can put these companies in Vegas, Austin, or Boulder, and people want to live in those cities. There's a lot of great stuff going on in those cities culturally, gambling, beautiful mountains to climb, all this kind of stuff. Hot chicks, stylish guys. I mean, there's good places for young people to live. But I mean, this has got to be it's literally the most frustrating thing, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the biggest bottleneck. Anything that slows us up is pretty frustrating.
Plus, the developers look at it like I can make 60 from home living in Austin and have a 5-bedroom house. Where if I move out to the valley, like I'm in an apartment.
I mean, you see the house that Zuckerberg's living in?
Yeah.
He's living in a dump.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the news. Bring Lon in here. Lon is here. The audience is just absolutely in love with Lon. Lon, let's get on the news train.
Can you hear me? I think we have an audio foul up.
Oh, we got a little audio problem with Lon. Lon is looking cleaned up these days. It looks like Lon's got his hair trimmed, the beard is trimmed. Look at the outfit, nice blazer. This does need to be, we need to get this blazer, we need to get it fitted.
I need to get, yes.
I'm going to send you over to Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor being my Korean lady who does it. It's so funny. It's called Ann's Taylor. Get it, Ann Taylor?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's like Ann Taylor. It's Ann's Taylor. So
I'm in.
And you know what's in right now? Trotta is in right now.
Oh, they are.
Trotta is a crowdsourcing pay-per-click marketplace leveraging the skills of more than 500 certified paid search experts. That's right. They have 500 paid search experts. And you say, how can you have 500 paid search experts on your team? Well, they don't have them in their office. They've got them working from home. These are very expensive people.
Yeah, we're excited to try these guys out. We're big believers in service marketplaces.
Trotta is a service marketplace of paid search experts. Everybody knows what paid search is. Those are little ads on Google. If you're a local business, if you're a startup, you're buying those, but you have to pay like 100 G's if you're going to buy one of these experts at $200,000.
Crazy, yeah.
They get paid a lot of money, the people who figure out what keywords are the best deal. So what Trotta does is they get these people together and they put them into a marketplace and you can hire them and they get paid based on how well of a job they do for you. You've mentioned Twist, T-W-I-S-T, that's our hashtag. You'll get $100 worth of pay-per-click marketing for free with every 1,000 you spend. They got to max that out at $3,000 and a $300 bonus because too many people are taking them up on the offer. On average, advertisers who start working with Trotta reduce their CPA by 10%. I am so happy to have them as a sponsor because Neil from Boulder, Tyler and I met him there when we were there in March, was on the program. I fell in love with the company. I can't remember what episode he was on. But Tyler has a pretty good memory of these things.
Hold on.
And when
I want to say 47.
27.
27. So Neil, the CEO, was on one of the early episodes. It's an incredible model. I love the model. And when he was on the program, he got an incredible amount of clients. And he said, Jason, how can I get on the program again? And I said, well, you've been on the program. You can only be on the program once. There's a lot of people who want to be on the program.
That's true.
People have heard your story. Or maybe we'll do a victory lap when you get to year 5 or something.
Right.
And he said, I need the clients from this weekend. Can we sponsor? All of a sudden I find out they're a sponsor of the program. And boy, are people loving it. I met a lawyer, actually, speaking of local services. I met a litigation lawyer at a dinner at one of Jason Nazar's dinners. And she said, do you know anybody who can help me with pay-per-click advertising? I don't know how to do it. I said, go to Trotta, trotta.com. Boy, thank you to them for sponsoring the program.
It was 47. They just confirmed in the chat room.
It was 47.
47,
not 27. So anyway, let's all take a moment to thank @Trotta.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
On Twitter.
I'll show you why. I'll show you why I got that wrong.
Lon wins, no problem. Yeah. Thank you, Trotta. Thank you, .co, and thank you @DNA Mal for sponsoring the program. You are listening to This Week in Startups, part of the thisweekin.com network. We now have 17 shows, including the wonderful This Week in Mad Men, This Week in iPad, This Week in Movies, This Week in Music, This Week in Comedy, This Week in
Health and Wellness.
Cause. And at 4 p.m. today, on Fridays, we've moved This Week in
Social Media,
hosted by Sean Percival, who I don't think will be here because he's got a baby.
Today, guest hosting today will be Amanda Coulomb.
And he had his baby.
He had his baby this week.
Everything good.
Charlotte Percival, young Charlotte Percival.
Well,
Everything, yes.
Let's get
10 fingers, 10 toes, great hair.
Let's get him a fruit basket. Can somebody ask Crute to get a fruit basket out to him or something? Congratulations to him, and somebody I guess will be filling in for him today on this.
Amanda
weekend.
Coulong is going to be sitting
Okay.
in on the show for a couple weeks until Sean's back.
Awesome. And you do need to take a couple of weeks off after you have a kid.
Yes.
You're not married, are you?
I'm not married.
Thank God. I'm not investing in anybody who's married with a kid. No, I actually am. I have a couple of investments like that. But you have to be pretty established if we're going to run a startup and have kids. What's in the news, Lon?
Well, the big story, and actually I saw somebody was mentioning it because it's breaking right now. Demand Media has filed for an IPO today.
Whoa!
Just now. According to the filing, Demand revenues reached $114 million for the 6 months ending June 2010. That's an increase of $91.3 million over the same period a year ago. According to Silicon Alley Insider, Demand hopes to raise as much as $1 billion this fall in their IPO. Their largest rival, Associated Content, of course, was purchased by Yahoo for $100 million earlier this year. So, you know, that's all the news we've got about them right now because it's just such a new story. But, you know, what do you think? You think they'll get their $1 billion?
$1 billion. Yes. Richard Rosenblatt is a friend of mine. He's a colossal entrepreneur. I'm going to have him on the program at some point when he's out of his quiet period. They have bought a lot of companies that are meaningful, like eHow, which is crushing it. I think probably half their revenue comes from eHow. That's what I've heard.
Yes.
On the word on the street. We do a lot of how-to stuff, so we're slightly competitive with them. People put us in the same space. I think Demand has some issues around maybe being too successful at building consumer-generated content. And by that I mean Demand is responsible for this label of Content Farm, which is an ugly label, which we really are trying to get Mahalo out of that bucket, but people keep trying to pull us into there. So I think you have, on one side, Demand Media is considered like maybe the most content farmish. And then over here you have things like Gawker and Weblogs Inc. and New York Times and professionally produced sort of stuff is considered the high end. And Mahalo is in the middle, and Associated Content's a little bit more towards Demand. And you know, there's a whole range here of content being created. And I think Demand is very successful because they've done a lot of content very quickly.
Right, yeah.
The problem is I think Google is aware of this, and Google might start to, the risk factor is that Google says, we're going to push down the people who maybe aren't doing the highest quality, and Google figures out what's high quality and what's not. Because right now Google does not, their algorithm doesn't really know the difference in quality between Demand Media, eHow, About, Mahalo, New York Times. It's very hard for them to know because the algorithm was made based upon how many inbound links, how much content you made, your keywords. It's not really about content, and I'm not sure how the algorithm is going to figure out content. And if it's social media and how many times you're tweeted, that's actually not going to work. It's much more subjective, which is the reason why we started Mahalo and human-powered search, but we've since pivoted. So I am very vested in this whole story. I am super excited about it, and I hope it's very successful. I think they've done a tremendous job. Actually, the guy Sean Colo, who is the president, is really an equal part to the success of it as Richard Rosenblatt. I'm very excited about it because the Associated Content deal, $100 million, and they've been around for twice as long as Mahalo, and Demand Media, which has been around for a little bit longer than Mahalo, and they're going very big. This is all good news. Basically, everything is going in the same direction. Demand, Mahalo, Associated Content, Suite 101, Huffington Post, About.com. There is a market for large-scale content sites. We're part of that movement, and I think it's going to be tremendously successful, and I think that they will, Hub Pages is another one, I think that they're going to buy a lot of companies in this space, and that's all good news for me personally and the company that we've been building.
Hopefully me personally as well.
Hopefully you personally as well.
We'll see.
I'm not saying that Demand is buying Mahalo.
No, of course not.
Not saying they're not, but we're not for sale right now. But it is great to see them come out because, frankly, that's just another acquirer in the space and another person validating the space. So very exciting. You following the space at all?
Yeah, we sort of follow what's going on and try to position ourselves. They actually, we try to learn the SEO lessons that these people do so well, and you guys.
Yeah.
Because that's a key to us getting a lot of traffic as well.
Sure. The key is going to be on those profile pages, having them be updated frequently, and having them get linked to a lot. So you got to get those people to link to it. You got to get the people who use those services to then say, "I'm going to link about." So if you rebroadcast or blog about it, you get some reward.
Yep.
So
that's part of your network independent value proposition is the leveraging the Google juice, or
that's exactly right.
The NIV.
Yes.
The NIV. We've coined a new term. Your NIV is your network independent value. It's what you have before you're at scale. It's your value before at scale. I love it.
It's good. It's good.
All right, next story. Let's keep this train moving. I want to have the show be exactly 90 minutes today.
We're gonna get there. HP CEO Mark Hurd resigns. This is the other big story that's breaking right now, today, going on at the moment. HP CEO Mark Hurd has resigned on the heels of a sexual harassment charge from a former HP contractor. Following an investigation, it was concluded there was no violation of the company's sexual harassment policy, but instead Hurd violated the company's standards of business conduct. Hurd acknowledged he had displayed a lack of character and said that stepping down was a painful decision. I've got a quote: "As the investigation progressed, I realized there were instances in which I did not live up to the standards and principles of trust, respect, and integrity that I have espoused at HP and which have guided me throughout my career. After a number of discussions with members of the board, I will move aside and the board will search for new leadership." There's a committee right now to find a proper replacement. So thoughts on this, and do you think stepping down in this case, is this an admission of guilt, or is this just he sort of had no choice with all this going on for the good of the company, he had to step aside?
All right. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on.
I have a lot to say about this, and I'm trying to decide if today is the day that I just give my personal philosophy, which is a little controversial, about sexual harassment and all these things, or not, because I don't know if I want it to become news or whatever. But let me just say a couple things. Number one, obviously he did something, or he wouldn't resign.
Right.
Number two, many times guys get roped into situations with women, specifically that dynamic, because they're stupid, and women build a case against them and basically rope them in and allow them to use their own stupidity to build a case against them. Now, I'm not saying that women don't get sexually harassed. You have people like Isaiah Thomas who sexually harassed a person there. But there are other cases where a guy will say something inappropriate. A woman will not say, "This is the line, and I'm drawing it here." The man will then just naturally go 10% worse, 10% worse, 10% worse, and that woman just keeps a list, just like that, boom, of all those things.
But he's a CEO.
And
I mean,
exactly, and so that's the other point, which is shame on you as a CEO or anybody who's at any position of it. What is the problem with these idiot guys? It's happening less and less, because I think that the older CEOs who maybe were used to telling, off-color jokes or other things. But having worked for me, Tyler knows having worked for me, do you guys ever see me alone with any female employee? Do you guys ever see me alone with any employee other than the top 5, 10 people in the company?
not really.
Do I have an office with a closed door?
You don't have an office at all, really.
I don't have an office. I have a cube, and then I sit out with everybody else. Do you guys ever hear me tell off-color jokes?
No.
Do you guys ever hear me say somebody looks good today? I like your outfit.
Me.
Well, I just said that when you walked in here, but I can't sexualize you. But anyway, the point is, you have to do the opposite as a CEO. This is my belief, and this is my advice. Not only should you not do the obvious stupid things, like tell a sexual joke, tell somebody that their ass looks good today. Sorry about that, Tyler. But you should not put yourself in a situation where somebody who is going to lie, because that does happen as well, can have a situation. So, for that reason, you will never see me alone in a car, alone in a meeting, alone with anybody female. I am just hyper vigilant about this. I do not want to put my family, my investors, or anybody who works for me through that. Ever. I have never had anybody accuse me of anything like that, because if they did, it would seem so farcical. Like, when did this sexual harassment occur? When Jason was sitting out there in front of 40 sorry, 1 minute 13 F-bomb. And I'm serious to the tech team. I want these taken out.
We've been doing a great job. They're all being taken out.
And so maybe I'm paranoid, but I have this fear that somebody is going to set me up someday, and it's going to embarrass my daughter and my wife and my mom and you and Tyler and our investors. You have to be vigilant that there are people out there who will trap you. And I'm not saying that this is the case here. This guy is obviously an idiot who did something stupid, because he's doing his mea culpa there, saying I embarrassed myself.
Well, he's admitting he acted inappropriately in some way. He's not saying what he did, but
two people who are in positions of leadership, especially young people like yourself, Marco, you can't put yourself in this position. Would you ever do anything like this?
No.
I mean, it's just so obvious, isn't it?
Yep.
But yet, people get very casual because a startup is casual.
Well, HP.
I know, but
Not
startup.
casual.
Well, you know what can get casual? You're at the top of the company. You got private jets. You got all this money around. People are going to dinners. You start to think you're invincible, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when people also go off the rails. You know, they get high on their own supply, so to speak. But, gosh, advice for young entrepreneurs, female as well, and gay, straight. It doesn't matter because there's many sexual harassment cases between gay people of. Gay employees, straight bosses, gay bosses, straight employees. I mean, this goes any different direction. Do not, if you are in a position of power, ever be alone in the room with a subordinate. There is no reason for a person in a position of power to be alone in a room with a subordinate. I keep the doors open when I'm in meetings all the time, and Tyler will tell you if somebody is being
Let go?
let go, how many people are in the room?
3?
3 or 4.
Minimum. I mean,
Minimum.
other than the person, yeah.
Yeah, other than the person. A minimum of 3 people in the room. You know why? They pull out a gun, I want to have at least a 1 in 3 chance of getting out of that room. But no, because you just don't want to have anything happen like that. I mean, this is just 101. So I mean, I don't know. I feel bad for the guy. I feel worse for the person who was harassed.
Yeah.
You know, it's just stupid. What age are we living in? And in fact, here at Mahalo, where we deal with adult content on the site sometimes,
Right, yeah.
everybody, and I researched this myself, everybody's forced to sign a waiver that if you work at Mahalo, because you're on an internet site, you may see things like porn, inappropriate jokes, and we may have to discuss, do we have that on the site or not? And you're okay with that. I had a waiver made, and I don't know why more people don't do this at companies, but man, this is critical stuff, and I'm going to give you like advice I would give to my son or daughter or somebody who I invested in or anything like that, which is be paranoid. Do not put yourself in a position where anybody can make any claim like this against you.
Yeah.
The only person I ever spent time with alone was Veronica, because we were personal friends, and a personal friend's Veronica Belmont.
Yeah.
Like I would take her for a ride in the Tesla or something like that, because I'm good friends and an investor with her husband, Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're good friends, but be paranoid. Any other comments on this, Tyler?
That guy had read his quote again. It is. I like how crafted his response is.
Yeah. Quote, as the investigation progressed, I realized there were instances in which I did not live up to the standards and principles of trust, respect, and integrity that I have espoused at HP and which have guided me throughout my career.
Right.
So, yeah, he says he did...
But he realized it as the evidence unfolded?
Right. Well, he's saying, like, yeah, it's very vague. He's saying basically there were standards of trust and integrity and respect. We don't know what those standards were. We just know he had them, and now he realized, looking back, that he had violated his own
Well, he realized
standards.
that they had the evidence, if you read into that.
Yeah, that you could certainly imply that. Yeah, like he does start with as the investigation progressed. So he doesn't say all along I knew, because I guess that would be like, well, why didn't you step down immediately? Why did you wait?
It's a humdinger of a quote.
It's obviously very carefully sculpted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marco, you want to jump into this pit of snakes and say something?
I mean, I don't know anything about it, and I hope never to learn.
Well stated.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Seriously, take my advice. Never be alone as the CEO in your company. There's no reason for you to be alone with anybody, especially if they're of the opposite sex, especially if you have power over them. It's just a bad situation to put yourself in, and there's no reason. Avoid it at all costs. Do not have your own office. If you do have your own office, take the door off. Literally, my office has no door in here. So if somebody says, oh my God, Jason sexually harassed me, where and when and how? In front of who? Where did I take you? Into the bathroom or something? I mean, would we go in the bathroom together? Oh, by the way, with his cameras here. I mean, I have security cameras in the place. So if I sexually harass somebody, it's on tape.
It's true.
You just have to be paranoid. I'm sorry it's come to that, but I mean, there are guys who have had their careers ended on this issue when they actually didn't do anything. And I had it. I'll tell the story. I had it in a company. Did I ever tell the story? Did I ever come up?
I don't think so.
All right. I had a company that I was involved with, and there was somebody who was a guy who was like a sales guy. And he kept saying on Instant Messenger to one of the other people who was not subordinate, but a level down. Boy, oh, you look great today. Oh, you're coming in, your hair's wet. That's the way I like it. You know, like just this like little, like, oh, I like that dress, or, you know, and she would just say like, whatever, you know? Like she would like, just give these little responses. I'll tell you how I wound up knowing this later. We get to a certain point, and she accuses him of sexually harassing her. He has left the company at this point. I don't want to get into too many details. But anyway, in this situation, it wasn't one of my companies, it was another company that I knew, that I was somehow involved in, and just leave it at that. And this was well over 10 years ago. This person, in my estimation, kept a record of this. And at no point did she say, this was inappropriate. She just said, like, I need to work, or, okay, whatever. You know, and like some of them were not engaging the person to do more, but that none of them were clearly stop. They were all just like right in that perfect gray area, almost as if she had written them to have it continue, but without having it seem like she was endorsing it. You know, it's just like right in that gray area where the person who was doing it could feel like, oh, maybe she's into it, or maybe, you know, and it was harassing in one way. But if you were friends and you went out drinking together, maybe not. It could be playful. Certainly not something that should be occurring in a workplace, but these were, you know, people who partied together and went out. And long story short, you know, he wound up leaving because he knew this was coming and all this kind of nonsense. You, as a guy, have to have a very hard line about this. A very hard line about it. Never do anything stupid. And if you do anything that's even close to stupid, you know what? You deserve it because you're an idiot. And women shouldn't have to be harassed, and nobody who's a subordinate to another person who's got power over them should have to be harassed at any time about anything.
Yeah, I mean that I think is the key. Men and women, it's a power dynamic, which is what you have to be careful about.
Yeah. So I'd be honest. I'm happy this guy learned the lesson. He's an example for everybody else, and I'm happy that I'm not happy that the incident happened, but I'm happy that he loses his job over it because he's an idiot. And his poor wife and his poor kids and everybody. I mean, I'm sure he feels terrible today. Anyway. But that's good that this happens in society because that other people learn you cannot get away with this and do stupid stuff. Next story.
All right, yeah, we only got 10 minutes left. And
I don't want to rant.
Two huge Google stories to get to. Okay. The first one, we have a new, I know we don't really do the Deadpool anymore, but Google Wave, if we did, Google Wave would be going in the Deadpool. Okay. Way, way back in the fall of 2009, Google Wave was the next big thing. Business Week wondered aloud, will Google Wave replace email and Facebook? TechCrunch said after getting a first look at Wave earlier that year that it dripped with ambition and called it a brand new method of communication. Robert Scoble said it was brilliant and all they needed to do to thrive would free themselves from email as an interface. Well, Google announced on Wednesday it would discontinue development of the real-time collaborative communication tool. To quote their own blog post, Wave has not seen the user adoption we would have liked. We don't plan on continuing Wave as a standalone project, but we will maintain the site at least through the end of the year and extend the technology for use in other Google projects. And they also are noting that now it's open source, so any little thing that they invented for Wave, anybody can now use. So any ideas about why this failed? Do you think this was like a flawed idea or just poor execution, or they just had too much else going on, they didn't get to focus on it?
I never was a fan of the product since it started. I didn't understand it. It seemed too complicated.
It seemed like a little too much going on, I thought.
I felt like a little too much going on.
Yeah.
In order for technical things to hit sort of scale, they got to be simple, you know? I mean, instant messaging. I'm talking about communication. Whenever you put too much structure on communication, it seems to fail. You know, it needs to be like sort of a base platform. And
I'm seeing it completely the opposite. In communication platforms, there's an analogy, there's a direct correlation between email and letter mails. So people conceptually get it from day one.
Yeah, it's like a metaphor.
Like even the inbox and the, you know, what it used to be like an actual mailbox with a flag and you got mail and it's like your grandma gets it right away. Yeah. Because it was so structured. And analogous to other, chat is analogous to just talking.
Yep.
And using the word chat to describe it. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But in Wave, there's not a real-world analogous way in which we communicate that way.
Yeah. It would have been better if it was like a Thumbtack board. If it was literally like a whiteboard online, it might have been better if it was like a whiteboard. But that's because that's sort of how they said it. It was like a collaboration space. And
right. I do think that letter by letter like typing where you could see people actually typing
that's
out.
Chat. It was
that's kind of cool. I mean,
it's real-time chat.
Yeah, I like that. But that was the only part of it that I liked. Everything else
whatever.
Like
I give Google a lot of credit for trying. What do you think? You used it?
We did use it. I mean, I think some of the ideas behind it are pretty smart. It's
like what?
Like collaborative creation of content is not easy by email. Nor is it easy in Google Docs necessarily.
Easier.
It's easier, but it wasn't built for that, though it's getting better. So I think that making that better was a good bet. I mean, I wish they'd shared some of that engineering talent with us. I mean, they probably devoted, what, 20 man-years or, you know,
who knows,
to building that product. And
so this is, this is why hiring people in the Valley is so hard right now because you have people like Google who will just hire up tons of engineers, and like you said, they probably had 20 people on this project for 2 years, you know, and just like, hey, go ahead, go screw around. It's probably 40, 50 years of engineering because it wasn't just those 20 people. There's all the people supporting them and around them. I mean, there might have been 10 infrastructure people working on this, you know, database people, who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, I say kudos to Google for 2 things. 1, trying, and 2, pulling the plug.
It does give some sort of, the people who are competing with Google in the social sense of things, because there was a bit of a social element to Wave, and it's sort of one more instance where Google doesn't quite make good in a social product.
Right.
That it adds more credence to that argument
that they don't know social.
Right.
Right. There is an argument they don't know social because you had Orkut didn't work, this didn't work, and now people are going to say Buzz isn't going to work because Buzz hasn't really evolved that great. Although I use it every day and it's gotten better actually in sort of doing this, but it has to be separated out.
Yeah.
But I
and then
think
there's
that
Google Me. That's their next big.
Google Me and Google Games. Anyway, it's going to work. Next story.
Well, staying on Google, this week they purchased one of the original social gaming and apps creators, Slide, for $182 million. Slide, of course, is the company behind the ubiquitous Superpoke, along with numerous other similar apps that live inside mostly Facebook, but also MySpace. So that's a nice chunk of change, but it's important to consider Slide received a $500 million pre-money valuation back in 2008 and had taken in $78 million in investment capital to date. So according to a TechCrunch post that actually crunched the numbers, you know, a lot of people at the top sort of made out okay. Former PayPal executive Max Levchin, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that right. Levchin. It's estimated he's going to walk away. Yeah. Right. He's the founder of Slide. He's going to walk away with about $39 million. He invested $7 million of his own in the Series A round, so he's doing all right.
Well done.
But you know, a lot of the other investors are basically going to get their money back. So do you think that's a disappointment or a win?
Might not be true. Sarah Lacey did some great journalism on this, by the way. Great journalist.
Yeah, that's the TechCrunch post.
Who I was hanging out with in the Valley, who I've known for a long time. She got a lot of information, but she may not have all the information about how the money got split up. There's participating preferred, et cetera. And so there's T. Rose Price and all these other people I didn't see in her story. I think Fidelity, T. Rose Price all invested $50 million in that last round.
Right, that was in that 2008 round at $500 million. Truth
be told, Mahalo was right behind them and Ning, and I was about to go for that. To disclose it, which I guess I don't have to do, but I was thinking about maybe we should raise $50 million. Maybe we should go for what Ning and Slide are doing. And I said to myself, we already have a $100 million valuation and we have raised $20 million. What am I going to do with that $50 million, and why do I want to push the valuation up to $500 million? Like, then I've got to sell the company for $2 billion. If I raise at $100 million, I've got to sell the company for $500 million.
Right.
Basically, when you get up towards those numbers, you need to get like 2, 3, 4, 5 times your return to make those investors feel happy. They're not like VCs looking for 100, but they would still like to go 2 to 10x, let's say. Well, they put the goalpost too far out.
Right.
Those people get their $50 million, but those people have preferred shares, which means they get at least their money back. However, there are also conditions in these documents sometimes, in these rights, that they get their money back plus interest, or they get their money back first and then they split based on their percentage. So if that $50 million bought 10%, they get their $50 million back and then they get 10% of what's left. So that's probably what happened here, I think. I think they got 50%, they got their $50 million back, then they got 10% of what was left after the $50 million. So if you take out, well, if it was 200, let's say, they get the $50 million back, now it's 150, they got 15 million.
But isn't that so that money comes out of the regular common shareholders like the employees, right?
So then whatever's left all the way down. So now if you took out the 50, if you take out the 78 from the top, let's cut 78 off of 228. Was it 228 or something they said? Anyway.
Yeah, well, they said it was 182 was the sale. They're saying they also paid $46 million in employee retention bonuses, so that would balloon it up to 228.
Okay, so you take the 78 out, let's say there's 100 left.
Right.
Now there's 100 left, and the D round has 10%, the C round has 10%, the B round has 10% or whatever. Let's give them like 12.5% each, all these people. Of that 100 million, then the common might have had 40 million left or 50 million left, which is why the founder got that number.
Sure.
He got
39 million.
Maybe he got like half of the 39 million from the 7%, or the 7 million he put in, and then the other half as a common. So the common pool might have only been 40 or 50 million dollars that got split, and that's why they dumped that extra 47 million in there. Is the 300 employees or 200 employees got that 47 million into it? But I thought about it because I know these guys from T. Rose Price, Fidelity. Right. And I hang out with them at a conference every year. I was at the bar with them the year they did this. And what happened was those folks Legg Mason, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, they typically invest in Google, Yahoo, et cetera.
Sure.
They had made so much money on their Google investment, so much money on these other investments, that they were feeling very cash rich in 2007, which was the point of my email newsletter that I just wrote about how to deal with bubbles.
Right.
And I said in that, even if they sold for, I don't know exactly what my quote was, but just last week before this happened, I said if they sold even for a lower number, it still would be fine because they get the participating preferred or preferred shares out. So anyway, there was very little downside risk to the founder and to even to the employees because they would get something.
Well, I guess that was my question: is this a cautionary tale to people who work at startups with dollar signs in their eyes, like this company's gonna be the next big thing, and I'm gonna make millions of dollars, and the money people,
This is what they
get their money out.
No, because what happens is they got all that money to potentially invest, right? So they got the chance to go big, and if it doesn't work out, they still did okay. So it's like it's not a home run, but it's a double. Or you didn't win the whole pot, but you had a split pot. You chopped the pot. So if the three of us, were in a pot together in poker, and you fold, and then we're both all in, and we chop, we still get your money that we get to split up. If you've ever been in poker and you get the chop pot, so it's sort of like that. It's like a split pot in poker where there's some dead money in it. So they're going to get some money out of it, and not that big of a deal. What did you think?
I mean, I think I'd be curious to know employees' reaction. I'm always surprised at employees who are given shares and don't ask for the percentage of the fully diluted number that represents.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they really have no idea where they stand in the pie.
Yeah. An important thing to know, unfortunately, most people are not going to give that to the lower level employees, quote unquote.
Seems odd. I mean, I don't know, having never gotten that far.
Generally, I think you guys know the total outstanding shares, yeah?
Yes.
You know what your percentage represents.
Yes.
And you know what your percentage yeah. So I think people know that, but you got to be careful. You don't want your total number of outstanding shares being out there for like TechCrunch to publish or whatever. But
I don't think anyone knows it.
But actually, when we hired you for this weekend, we actually offered you a percentage.
Yes.
So top level guys will get an offer of a percentage. That's just basically how it goes in the industry, and everybody else sort of just gets a number of shares, and they can sort of.
You get a certain amount of shares, and you don't know what that. And the more,
well, you could tell them what the last people paid for them. You can say,
diluted.
oh, the last people paid $7 a share.
Right.
And you get them at a strike price of $2 a share, so you get an idea of what your spread is and how much money it represents. Last story.
We're at 90. I can go one more story.
How many stories you got left? Let's hear the headlines. Let's pick.
I'll give you some headlines. We can talk about the New York Times net neutrality story. We can talk about Techstars Boulder. We can talk about Red Beacon, which seems apropos. Or we can talk about Wearoscope.
All right, we're going to do something very quick here. The first three stories, we're going to do each one. I'm going to do 30 seconds. Marco's going to do 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Tyler may insert himself. Go.
Okay. So New York Times on net neutrality. A controversial New York Times piece on August 4th claimed Google and Verizon were nearing an agreement that would allow Verizon to privilege certain kinds of internet content in exchange for a fee, essentially putting a stake in the heart of net neutrality. Google and Verizon are both denying this. Google CEO Eric Schmidt said that it's just a misunderstanding of what they're actually trying to do. So do you believe the New York Times report or the denials?
The New York Times is clearly wrong. Google would never sell out net neutrality because the guys at the top, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, I know personally, are big fans of net neutrality, and they have been fighting for it for a long time. When I was perplexed so much that I tweeted, please, can somebody from Google tell me what's going on, because this makes absolutely no sense. It was immediately I knew it was false. There's probably some collaboration to bring fiber to the home, since, this is my guess, fiber to the home has stopped, right? They stopped rolling out Fios?
Yes.
Google, is my prediction, Google will partner on fiber to the home. It will be called Google Fiber or Google Fios. And Google will underwrite the paying of putting fiber into the home. That's what's going to happen.
I think you're absolutely correct.
Boom.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving on. Techstars Boulder, 11 new startups launched from the Techstars Seed Accelerator program in Boulder, Colorado yesterday. I've got all 11 companies here, but you saw some of the launches, some of the presentations. Any favorites? What was the big company that you saw coming out of Boulder?
All of them were very, very high quality. There was one that was, I'm not going to remember all the
I got
names.
them all here, so
okay, so run through them, I'll tell you.
AdStruck, an auction marketplace for billboard advertising. StatsMix, which is dashboards for displaying analytics and APIs.
So the StatsMix was nice. It's a group aggregator. I've heard that idea many times, but it's pretty nice integration. The outdoor marketplace for ad stuff, that's okay. It's a good idea, but again, it's a niche thing. Next.
Gearbox, it's a robotic toy that interacts with your smartphone.
Very cool. Very cool. It's a ball, basically, and the guy was like, controlling the ball from his phone, and you can do all kinds of ball-based games.
Ping pong game and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Vacation rental partner. It's manage your vacation rental home without a management company.
This was a great one. This is probably one of the best, or if not the best. Basically, you know, it's VRBO to rent your house.
Yes.
And so this lets you manage the whole process of cleaning the house and doing all the stuff. So you basically outsource it. It's like a management company for your house, but it's cheap. Next one.
Omniar visual search. You can take a picture of something and get information about it.
It's really about the database that they have, where they let you, you know, do the tools in an art museum or something. It was kind of nice.
Yeah. Spot influence. Search for influencers on specific topics across the web.
Yeah, this is like what TweetUp, which I'm an investor in, is doing, and what Twitter is doing. I don't like these businesses that do this because I think that businesses like attached to Twitter are just not going to do well in general.
Right. Blip snips. Easily share specific moments from a long video across your social graph.
I've seen this idea 100 times. It was pretty well executed, but I think it's a YouTube feature.
Kapost. Web content marketplace allowing publishers to utilize crowdsourced virtual newsroom approach.
Very interesting. I think a lot of big publishers will use it.
Reminded me of Mahalo in a little way.
It's basically like Demand Meter or Mahalo for any site.
Yeah. Rent monitor. Help landlords manage multiple properties, keep track of rent collection, tenant screening, maintenance,
this one will be very successful, pragmatic, but good if you own places. It actually lets you do invoicing through the site. So if I own 3 apartments or 3 buildings, I can do invoicing through the site, and
ScriptPad, iPad, and iPhone app for doctors, allowing them to quickly and safely write prescriptions.
This was a good one, too. They opened with this. It was like they showed prescriptions that had actually killed people because they were scribbled and whatever. And basically, you take the iPhone out, you say what you're going to do, or you can say it into it, and then it sends a prescription to the person.
Idea.
I think, though, there's a lot of execution risk because a lot of people are going to do this, and it might be a business for one of those big companies.
Yeah. And finally, round peg. Ensure scientifically that new hires fit your company's culture with psychological interview questions.
This was really fascinating, and I think it could work. I've been talking about how culture is very important in hiring people, so I think that basically they give you a personality test, and then you do
they have specific questions that they want recruiters to ask, and then they have ways to analyze the
Well, you
responses
also have to
get.
profile your organization. So you profile what your organization is like and then match people to it with personality tests. So it's a very interesting concept. Do you guys have a favorite? All 3 of you, what's your favorite just by hearing them?
The rent one seems really cool.
For the vacation rentals or for the...
Both, actually, yeah.
Those 2 were very, very...
I feel the same way, you know, helping small businesses with their sort of administrative needs.
They're getting savvy now, and they're off of AOL email addresses, and they're actually on the Twitter and the Facebook, and they
Yeah, I mean, the landlord ones make total sense to me. It seems like an obvious sort of niche to fall into, but I really like the robotic toy with your smartphone. Everybody's got a smartphone now.
I'll tell
seems
you,
an obvious
They had the
play.
funniest presentation. I don't know if the presentations were out. If they are, somebody could put it into the chat room. But the presentation for that one was great because the guy was like, you know, we're going to make a lot of money, you know, because we have this opportunity, that opportunity, and also we're selling a ball. Yeah, like it's just. And then at the end, he's like, he had a really great line at the end where he goes, "So if you guys are interested in our balls, please come see us in the back and play with our balls." And the audience laughs hysterical. And then David Cohen comes up and goes, "Thank you for that very compelling offer to play with your balls." It was like the funniest skit I've ever seen in my life. Can we pull this up? Will the Thrill pull up for the audience the funniest skit ever, which is the Sweaty Balls.
Yeah.
Find Sweaty Balls, please, which was a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah, Pete Sweaty.
Pete Sweaty. And we're going to play this, and you have to stay tuned in to hear the Sweaty Balls.
It's Anna Gasteyer really sounds like, you have the best balls.
Oh, who is that? What's that one's name?
It's Anna Gasteyer and Molly Shannon are the 2
Oh
comedians.
my God,
who are
it's
with
like
Alec
this NPR thing. It is literally the funniest video on the internet.
It's hilarious.
And I would like to thank, do we have one more?
We can do one more if you want to.
Real quick.
Red Beacon raises $7.4 million. TechCrunch 2009 winners Red Beacon raised $7.4 million, their first outside round of financing, led by Mayfield Fund. Thus far, the company had funded itself with just $200,000 from total, including the $50,000 TechCrunch 50 prize.
The race is on. I have bet on Thumbtack. That being said, I wish Red Beacon the best, and I think they will be successful, and there'll be 2 great winners in this space. I think they will be in order: Thumbtack, Red Beacon. And you have to make me right.
Yeah. You know, it's a big validation for the space, but I think, you know, we'll see. Time will tell.
We're going to have Red Beacon on the program, so congratulations to them. Next up at 4 p.m. this week in social media, you can leave this window right up. No reason to close this window. Just leave it
I
up.
think we might do a little chat thing in here to bridge the gap.
Oh, you're gonna bridge the gap between the shows?
Greg Cardone and I are gonna try a little experiment.
You know what's interesting
Okay.
in the Red Beacon Thumbtack?
Well, what about Tyler? Tyler's much more interesting than Greg.
All right, leave Tyler. Tyler, hang out.
I got stuff.
Tyler's a busy man.
Yeah, but in the Ethan and his crew, very Harvard,
MBA-ish?
MBA and academic, very smart, engineerish, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think it was
Google-driven.
Yeah,
the Google guys.
Right.
And then you got the underdog blue
and
collar.
yeah, the bluer collar.
It's like Rudy versus. It's like we're the Rudy team.
We're the scrappier team.
We're the scrappier
It's
team.
good, but I like the difference and to see.
Listen.
It'll be interesting to see.
My
how
prediction:
that plays out.
Gawker, Weblog, Zing, both will be tremendously successful. You'll have an Engadget and a Gizmodo, and they'll both be winners. And I wish them the best. Obviously, there was two votes in the TechCrunch 50 conference that Mike Arrington decided to implode for no reason. Not that I'm bitter. And now we're doing launch on February 23rd and 24th. I voted for them as the winner. I think I love the space and I love their approach. I like Thumbtack's approach better. Marco, thanks for coming on the program.
Absolutely, it was awesome. Thanks.
Continued success. I love your approach. You brought it today in the interview. I could tell people in the chat room really liked it. I'd like to ask everybody in the chat room, please rate the guest from 1 to 10. How good a job did the guest do? And so you can rate Marco, a number, and then you can rate Jason, a number. They love rating how good the host is, how good the. And then I would like you to rate Tyler today, Tyler, and then Lon, I want to rate everybody. You can't just put 10 plus for everybody. You got to say,
No, you could put
Lon,
10 plus.
this, Tyler, this,
6.
Jason 9,
Jason 9.
Marco 9,
9.
Nice,
9
scrappy.
is solid from this crew.
Yeah, 9 is
solid.
Marco 11. Whoa, Tech Outsider gives you an 11, a 10. Jason 10. Jason didn't
Tell his secret on hiring.
fair
5.
enough. 9's across the board. Marco 9.5.
Ian, I don't know who.
Tyler
Ian is.
12. Is it Tyler
Tyler 12. My God.
Lon 6. Tyler 6. Jason Marco 8. C. It was no insight from Tyler.
You only
Tyler
got a
had
7.
some moments, but none of them were a bona fide insight. They didn't
true.
play the jingle.
All the
there was no
100
insight.
gave you only a 7 for no insights.
I will give Marco 5. High 5.
High 5.
Wait, no, it's at a 10. I don't
Ignore
know.
that guy.
Tyler 7. No insight. I agree. I'd give Tyler a 5. No
Tech
insight.
Outsider ranked Tyler as creepy.
It's because the Tyler camera looked creepy.
The Tyler cast.
I love the rating.
Yeah. I got a 10. Do you see that one?
Tyler and Lon
See,
11
Eastern,
carrying
look
the
at
ship.
that. Marco 7, Jason 8, Lon 10, Tyler 5.
DanielleComedy.com. 10. Who's that?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, okay.
Lon Entrepreneur.
Who is that? Jay Harris. Who's that?
Yeah.
10.
John Harris does not give
Lon's
me a 10.
mom. 12. Lon's mom gives it a 12.
Jay Harris
All
would
right.
be a
Thank
3.
you again to Trada. Thank you again to DNA Mail. And thank you to .co. Really, you got to help the program by thanking the sponsors. If you do
Please.
decide to buy a domain name, say, I bought this domain name because of This Week in Startups Pound Twist. I love .co. If you use Trada, say, I love Trada. I use Trada because of This Week in Startups. We'll see you all next time on Tuesday when our guest will be...
Tuesday, we get all of the guys from Flick, F-F-L-I-C-K.
Oh, this is big.
Yeah.
This is like the hot new startup.
This is a really hot new company. They're all ex-Dig employees.
Ex-Dig employees.
FFLICK. They aggregate tweets to give you a picture of what all your friends, what movies all your friends are talking about.
It's a pretty cool idea. It's
really
like Rotten
awesome.
Tomatoes done by your friends. It's Metacritic by your
Right.
friends.
That's exactly
I
how
love
it
the
is.
idea. Can't wait
Metacritic
to
by your
meet
friends.
them. F-Flick.
Yeah, Flick with 2 Fs.
Flick with 2 Fs.
FFLICK.
You check this out, Tyler?
Very, very, very cool.
Cannot wait.
Really
And then
cool.
next Friday, who's our guest? Do we have a guest?
We don't have a guest set up yet. I'm working on it right
Okay.
now. We may, if we can't find one, we'll do all Ask Jason.
Well, that's Jason. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.
Spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from.